Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we have some colorful topics and then one that's not so good. Let's start with the bad news first. Another storage locker break-in. This story keeps recurring and recurring and recurring, that people are breaking into these storage lockers, stealing large quantities of guitars, selling them off cheaply, and then getting away scot-free. Unfortunately, this has now hit Buckethead. You know, this Buckethead, the amazing musician and the creator of my absolute favorite signature guitar of all time. So recently on his website, bucketheadpikes.com, he updated it with this message. 10 of the most important guitars of my life were stolen. It's a tremendous loss. I'll never be able to replace them, but he's looking for guitars that come close to them. And then further goes on to say he's trying to get 2 studio Gibson Les Pauls, and you can contact him here if you have something. And I keep getting a whole bunch of messages from people saying, help Bucket, help Bucket. It's like, I want to help you, Bucket, but I don't have enough information. So I reached out to him. If I ever get a response, I'm going to update the description of this video because we need to know what exactly are we looking for here? Are they Buckethead studios and signatures, or are they different guitars that he's played? Because he says it's the 10 most important guitars of his life. He didn't always have the Buckethead signature. I mean, these could be early prototypes. It could be one of the various other brands of guitars that he's played in the past. So hopefully we'll get some descriptions and serial numbers of these guitars so we can get them back to Bucket. And then I'll be honest, I'm not sure what 2 studio Gibson Les Pauls mean. Are they the Buckethead studio ones? Or is he just looking for like what we unboxed yesterday, like a nice Les Paul studio? So hopefully we get more information soon. Because trust me, I want to help, I don't have enough information to really help besides letting you guys know if you find a really cheap Buckethead Les Paul somewhere, there's probably a reason behind it. Because Bucket actually sold a couple of his own guitars a couple of months back. I think it ended up selling for about $10,000. And then shortly after that, I get contacted by somebody that has this thing. So apparently the story is at a swap meet for $500. Somebody was able to pick up Buckethead's #1 prototype of his signature guitar. It's got the whole black headstock on it. And I remember when I was first approached about this guitar, I was like, that seems strange Bucket would get rid of the prototype, but at the same time, those kill switches aren't as good as the arcade style ones. So maybe he sold it because he needed to, because I mean, that was something that just happened. But for it to show up at a swap meet for cheap was kind of suspicious. But I was contacted not once, not twice, but 3 times about this guitar, all with different people who have bought it. So it's kind of played hot potato. And currently the owner who supplied me with these photos, he's trying to reach out to Buckethead to, get more story. And then this just broke that things have been stolen. Is this stolen? I mean, it kind of seems like it at this point, but we just don't know. We can't get responses from Buckethead's team. However, if he's hurting for money, he's hurting for guitars, Bucket, Gibson, come on. This is the perfect time. Come together again and reissue the Buckethead signature guitar. I've tried to petition you guys in the past, and to be fair, we were under Henry J era, so obviously it didn't happen, but we're in a completely new era of Gibson. Whether they need to just completely reissue it so there's a version 2 made under new ownership, or maybe they get together and do something completely new. Buckethead has such a huge cult fan base. I mean, we're still out here paying crazy prices for these originals, and when they were only like, $4,000 brand new, and nowadays getting one of those for that price would be a miracle. But maybe this will breathe life to a custom shop version. That would make me extremely excited. But now let's move on here. We have a brand new model from Fender called the George Harrison Rocky Stratocaster. That sounds familiar. Didn't we just document a $20,000 version of one of these not too long ago? Yeah, Fender reissued it for $2,000. Man, this was such a big slap in the face to big-time guitar collectors. I was honestly very shocked when I saw this thing come out. Because let's face it, it takes time to do this paint job. I thought for sure this would just be like some printed on decal or something, but no, every single one of these was hand painted, and it looks pretty darn good, if you're trying to do the whole Rocky guitar. But looking at this, $2,000 seems like an absolute steal. I mean, you read through everything here, they got the specs just about the same. It does indeed say it's hand painted. It's really quite a fantastic deal. If you like the 7 1/4 inch fretboard radius anyway. And you can't find it here, but if you read some articles like on Gear News or something, they tell you how many they made. 1,000 pieces worldwide. Okay, so it's kind of like the recently reissued Harrison Rosewood Telecaster. These things were just a little bit under $3,000 new, but then people started to flip them for about twice as much. Currently, the used market seems to fall somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000. But look at this with me. $2,000? Rocky Stratocaster, all hand painted? That just didn't line up for me. So I had to do a little bit of digging, and now it makes complete sense. This is not a USA-made Stratocaster, it's a Mexican Stratocaster. Now, I'm not saying the Mexican Strats are bad, it's just the price point makes a lot more sense now because I thought those were USA at first. And to be honest, I think it's kind of deceiving on Fender's part that they don't have Made in Mexico somewhere in the description. I mean, you would have to know Fender guitars, know to zoom in right here on the neck plate to see the MX leading in the serial number to know that. So that makes it one of the most expensive Mexican Stratocasters out there. Because look, it rivals like the American Ultra series. But let's face it, if you're buying this, you're buying it because you need a modern playability Stratocaster. If you're buying this, you're buying it for the novelty and the inevitable flip of about $3,500. But I mean, you could get a professional too for less than that. But I suppose the most fair comparison here is this was a really blinged out Mexican Stratocaster, the Tom Morello. I remember people were all up in arms when it wasn't a USA production. But that one was $1,600, so that means they're putting like what, about a $500 premium on the whole hand-paintedness. So even though it was kind of a slap in the face to the collectors who bought the big custom shop Mac Daddies, at the same time, this was a great fan service to get these to people who want one at a pretty fair price. So I kind of have mixed feelings about this particular reissue. And a few of them have shown up on Reverb, so we can actually see, yeah, they were hand-painted, but I don't know who's painting them. It's not the famous Paul Waller. So they probably just have a team of workers who just, the past 6 months have been painting these things. I'd say they did an okay job recreating it. Like, just looking at this, yeah, it looks fine. But if you actually look at one of the Masterbuilt ones, you can see, okay, the paint is significantly different. Many people might actually think the new one looks better. You also have the aging. Like, see the pickup right here, it's worn. Whereas this one does not have that. They just painted the whole thing. You can see this green is a little bit darker as compared to what they used over here. Pickguard's more that whole mint green color. Whereas this one, it almost looks like they just went for parchment white. Bebopalula, very slightly different location on the body. Like, it's not a one-for-one replica, but they did a pretty good job at the price point, I would say. Obviously, the custom shop ones, they got the additional aging back here, whereas these are clean. They don't have any screw holes, whereas the custom shop did. Obviously, these guys had the fancy bird's eye flamed necks, and these, for the most part, are probably going to be plain. But I would say Fender, so far, appears to have done a pretty good job at creating a mass-produced limited run of these. Now, was I lucky enough to get one? Nah. I was about 6 hours late to the party. Apparently Sweetwater got, I think it was 61 of them, and I'm like number 63 on the list. So it's like, I've already did the Masterbuilt. I don't really want to redo that review, so I think that this video is probably good enough. But hey, if I end up picking one up for original retail value, maybe I'll do a quick video. But sadly, most of those are going to be flipped. Whether it's resellers buying them all up or just people who are tempted. They were saving up their pennies for something special. You buy it for $2,000. I can see the temptation is real if you can all of a sudden make $2,000 on top of that and then buy some other guitar that you do want. That's just the way it goes sometimes. You got to make some decisions. And our last piece of gear news actually comes from Epiphone. They introduced this new Power Player series, and I'm not quite too sure how I feel about them. At first glance, these don't really seem to be all that special. I mean, it's just another budget-level Epiphone that's a bolt-on neck that comes in a pretty color, that has a gig bag, comes with a cable and some picks. That seems to be of a reduced scale length of some sort and has a wraparound bridge. However, then you get to the price, $279. That is not bottom of the barrel for Epiphone, so I had to do a little bit more digging into these. Because there's not only Les Pauls, but there's also SGs out there. Which I think the SG looks the best, especially in that lava red finish, but then they also have ice blue if you're interested. But I think the best finish actually falls as an Epiphone.com exclusive, Dark Matter Ebony. I'm not sure if Dark Matter makes it look different, but straight up Ebony looks sweet. Get yourself some DiMarzios in there, you've got your Ace Frehley going on. Or if Angus is more your style, they also have that SG variation. So, according to the website, they're 22.73-inch scale lengths. So, to put things into perspective, Les Pauls, generally 24 3/4 inches. So they're just slightly 2 inches less in scale length. So it's not like the Pee-wee Les Pauls that we talked about in this episode, and it's not necessarily like the Lotuses either. They're a little bit longer than that. However, I don't think it's quite as good as the Edwards model that we learned about in this episode that they can't sell in the United States. That was 20.5 inches, and I thought that was a very comfortable guitar to play. So this one being 2 inches even longer than that, it's going to take the flub of the string, so you probably don't don't have to use the super ultra heavy gauge ones anymore. I mean, the Pee-wees were at 19.5, and usually those Lotus Les Pauls were somewhere between 19 and 19.5. But what really intrigues me about these is their tagline, your first forever guitar. So if you actually read through here, they have apparently spec'd it out pretty good. Like you come down here, they're claiming it's real mahogany. Now, when you have an import model, I mean, there's a lot of things that can be billed as mahogany, but it seems like they might have used some premium quality stuff here. Looks like we also have the bolt-on mahogany neck, slim tapered neck profile in the D shape. I know a lot of guys that don't like the D-shaped Epiphone necks, but you know, whatever. I mean, they still went with the plastic nut. I feel like for the price point, we probably could have got new bone or something. But I do like the fact that it's a sculpted heel. It's not real easy to see, but it just seems like a very minor sculpting. But due to that, you don't actually have to have a neck plate, so that's kind of interesting. And it appears the electronics are, you know, pretty basic. So a 3/4 size Les Paul. I wonder if these things are any good, especially with the marketing that they have behind this. I'm tempted to pick one of these things up because it could be a great new alternative to the travel guitar market. I mean, you could go to somebody like Glary. Now, sure, it's a rip-off company that just uses Fender's designs for the most part. But how can you really compete against like a full-size guitar? I mean, you can make the argument that, hey, you want the mini guitar thing, and these guys do have that as well, but this is, you know, way smaller than that. So in many ways, it's a completely different thing. You're buying from the manufacturer that actually owns these shapes. And it's kind of like a medium-sized guitar. So it kind of fills a niche that hasn't necessarily been too taken over in the US market anyways. But only time will tell if these are duds or not. I do like that they have the new Epiphone headstock shape to them, although the logo looks a little bit low in my opinion. Alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.